Howdy, fellow vine trippers. I wanted to take just a moment before the show starts to let you know about a great website called Texas Wine Lover. They can be found at txwinelover.com. And they have a comprehensive website that can become your go-to site for information on Texas wines, winemakers, and the wineries that can be found in this state. They even have a phone app that you can download, and that will help you plan your route to create your own wine trip. So make sure and check them out at txwinelover.com. Welcome to Texas Under Vine, an exploratory podcast to scout out the best that Texas wine country has to offer. I'm your wine guide, Scott, and I'm here to lead you on an auditory expedition to the vineyards and wineries across the great Lone Star State. Each episode will cover a different vineyard, winery, or wine-related business operating in Texas. You'll hear interviews, descriptions, and details about each location that will excite you to visit and experience them for yourself. Ready to plan a wine tour? Use these episodes to choose the most interesting spots for you and your friends to check out. Most of all, enjoy hearing about the rapidly growing wine industry in the state and what makes our wines and wineries the best. Howdy, fellow vine tripper. Welcome to episode 22 for Texas Under Vine. So today we embark on a captivating journey to an exciting wine destination called Texas Heritage Vineyard. Nestled in the picturesque landscapes of the Texas Hill Country, this family-owned vineyard has been producing some of the finest wines the state has to offer. So I actually had the pleasure this last spring of being able to go to a media event at their actual estate vineyard, thanks to Matt McGinnis, Big Thirst Marketing, for setting that up. And had a great time out there getting to meet the owners, Billy and Susan Johnson, and the winemaker, Tyler Budemeyer, and got to taste some great wines and see their vines out there. So I was able to set up at a time to be able to go out to their tasting room outside of Fredericksburg to visit the winery itself. So the owners and founders, Susan and Billy, actually had established careers with State Farm before Susan explored further training in viticulture and enology. Actually, Billy still has a thriving career there with State Farm. He does his farming outside of that particular job right now, but Susan is dedicated full-time to the vineyard itself. In about 2015, they actually began planting their vineyard, which is located on a 92-acre property that they owned outside of Fredericksburg. They built the whole vineyard themselves, so they are truly homegrown. They have around 15 acres of estate grapes, and they focus on several varieties in their vineyard, including things like Petite Syrah and Grenache. They also specialize in making actually a lesser-known Portuguese varietal called Suzal. I actually got a chance to taste that right out of the barrel when I did that media tour event back in the spring. In addition to these estate grapes, they also source grapes from other regions in Texas, although they do pride themselves on being 100% Texas and are very proud of their own estate wines from their own vineyard. Their current tasting room on Highway 290, just outside of Fredericksburg, was actually purchased in 2006 as a place to sell some lavender products that they were farming on about 3 acres of their property before they had even considered getting into the wine industry. And now they've actually turned that into their full-time tasting room, which opened in 2018. Susan is a 7th-generation Texan, and they're very proud of their Texas heritage and try to honor that in everything they do in the tasting room, including the name of their brand. Several of their wines are named as tribute to Texas historical events or big things that have happened in Texas history. They like to bring in Texas artists to provide live music a couple of times a week in the tasting room. Many of the famous names in Texas music have appeared live in their tasting room and continue to do that. Their wine pickup parties for their wine club members are held out at the actual estate vineyard site rather than the tasting room. It's a pretty fun property with a tasting room barn that, again, I was able to visit back in the spring. If you are one of their wine club members, you will definitely enjoy one of those pickup parties. Well, our guest today on the podcast is none other than one of the owners and the founders of Texas Heritage Vineyard, Susan Johnson. She and her husband, Billy, have a great story about their location and the wines made by their definitely more than capable winemaker, Tyler Buttemeyer. So grab a glass of your favorite Texas vintage, sit back, and join us as we uncork this great tale of the Texas Heritage Vineyard with Susan. All right, well, we can get started here then. My first question is, tell me a little bit about yourself. What got you into the wine industry?
So we got into the wine industry after I retired from my full-time job, which was with State Farm Insurance for 31 years. That happened. I retired in 2013, and we owned property. We had lived out in Fredericksburg for probably, at that point, 11 or 12 years. And the property that we lived on had some acreage, and it was all high fence, so kind of made to grow grapes on. And my husband encouraged me to take viticulture at Texas Tech here, the 2-year viticulture program. So I reluctantly signed up for that. And the rest is history. You know, everybody in that class, there are like 25 people or so to each class that starts in the fall of the year. And so all of those people have some sort of passion for wine. Either it's about growing grapes, or it's about making wine, or they already work for a winery, or there's a reason, of course, that they're in the class. And so we got bitten by the grape growing bug, and we thought that we would just try our hand at 1 acre of Tempranillo grapes. So we ordered those, and as you know, if you're talking to people who grow grapes, it takes quite some time to get vines. Once you order them, they have to graft the rootstock onto the vine that you're trying to grow, and that process takes a while. So it usually takes about 15 to 18 months to get those vines. So we ordered them in 13. We planted our first acre of Tempranillo in 2015. And we did all that ourselves. We put in the irrigation, we put in the wires, we put in all of the infrastructure ourselves. It was a lot of work. And we had almost talked ourselves out of the little venture to make it ongoing. And we decided to take a trip to Napa Valley to look at some best practices and look at some people who, obviously know what they're doing. And so as you can imagine, you see beautiful vineyards there, and it looks like all of it's relatively easy because you don't see the people working. So while we were there, we drank some really great wine, and we picked up the phone and ordered 3 acres worth of grapes from Nova Vine Vineyard, which is there in Napa and Sonoma. And so the rest is history. We came home and bought a different piece of property that had 92 acres and started planting grapes. And we just planted our last 2 acres that will fill out the area of the vineyard that's high fenced. So we just planted Petit Verdot and Grenache. And so this morning I was actually out there in the vineyard with my husband working on the irrigation system because, as usual, it wasn't going to work this morning. So anyway, it's all good. So now we have about 15 acres of grapes. Some were planted in 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. We skipped 20, I think. Maybe the grapes took a pause from COVID. I don't know. And then we finished filling out that vineyard. So, yeah.
Did y'all take a big hit from the hailstorm?
Knock on wood, we haven't had any hail. We have hail netting. We installed hail netting in our vineyard last year, which was quite the project. And we do have it. It's over the grapes right now. So hopefully that would help save them. But our vineyard has actually escaped whatever hailstorms have been coming through.
So I've had the privilege of visiting the vineyard itself. And I know your tasting room is separate from that because your tasting room is really on 290 itself. So what brought you to this property? How did you get this tasting room set up?
Well, that's obviously a long story as well. We tried to grow lavender when we first moved out to Fredericksburg in 2002. We thought that sounded very romantic and interesting and like a fun thing to do. And so we planted about 3 acres of lavender in 2002. And we farmed it, and we sold lavender products on the weekends. And we bought this property where our tasting room is now, up on Highway 290, to sell lavender products out of. So we actually bought this property in 2006, which is a really good thing because we probably couldn't afford it now. But we're glad we bought it in 2006. And we had the lavender store here for a few years, and then we decided that was more work that we really needed to focus on our day jobs. And so we have rented out this property. We rented it out for 8 years and then installed our tasting room here in 2018. We opened the tasting room in May of 2018.
Is there a story behind the name of the location, Texas Heritage Vineyard?
Well, there's a story behind everything, right? You wouldn't be human if you didn't have a story behind it. So I am a seventh-generation Texan. My family came to Texas back in the 1830s and immigrated from Louisiana and settled up in East Texas. And then they moved on down to Victoria, Texas. So they were here before Texas, when Texas was still a republic. And my parents, my mother was always very proud of that. And she instilled in us a great pride for the state, hopefully not a boastful pride, but a pride nonetheless. And so we thought it just fitting to name it Texas Heritage and try to honor all things Texan. We have Texas flag retirement ceremonies that we do on Texas honor days, such as San Jacinto Day, Texas Independence Day. We celebrate Sam Houston's birthday and Stephen F. Austin's birthday and lots of different things about Texas.
So for your wines and your grapes, do you only use stuff from your vineyard or you source things from other places as well, like High Plains?
Like most growers here, we cannot grow enough to satisfy our needs. So we do buy from other growers every year, as every winemaker, vineyard owner will tell you, every year is different. Most of the time, we produce about a fourth to a third of the grapes that we need. Normally, we work about 100 to 120 tons. Last year, of course, was very different because of the drought and the heat and the, just issues with getting the amount of grapes that we wanted. So we ended up only with 82 tons. We hope to be back to normal this year. Our vineyard particularly looks great. The grapes look great. We've had moisture. We had no moisture really last year. So we've had some rain out there and things are beautiful. We think this year we'll get between 40 and 45 tons off of our own vineyard. We'll see. Some vines are younger than others, so we'll see. But we have contracts with other growers, mostly in the hill country, but we get about 15 to 20% of our grapes from the high plains up around Lubbock.
And then for your production, you have the full production facility there on site at your vineyard?
Yes, just like most crazy people, we have a full production facility. You can't go into this halfway. It has to for us, for sure, it had to be like kind of all or nothing. When we first started making wine, we worked with John Rivenberg, who's kind of a household name in the hill country. He's helped a lot of people get started. He helped us get started. He made the wine for the first year, and then we brought on a young man who's been with us ever since, named Tyler Budemeyer. So Tyler has taken over winemaking duties. I assist Tyler during that harvest season. I'm out there concocting yeast potions and doing punch downs and things like that. But Tyler has the heavy lifting duties, and he's worked with us since 2018. So, yeah. So we produce all our own wine. We don't buy any made wine from anyone else. It's all 100% Texas grapes. It's normally single vineyard. In fact, I can't think of any multiple vineyard wine that we've produced. It's all single vineyard. Even the blends are normally from the same vineyard, and it's all mostly single variety. We do have a white blend, and we have a couple of red blends, but most of the other wines are single variety wines.
So what are your favorite wines that you make personally?
Ooh, I like a lot of them, which is good. My favorite wine, anybody that works here will tell you, is our white blend, which is named Time Traveler. That is a blend of Viognier and Roussanne, which we source from another grower. The Viognier and Roussanne grapes that go into that, both vintages of that. We made a 19, we sold out of that, so we made another vintage last year in 22. Those grapes were sourced from the Reddy Vineyard up in Brownfield. The name Time Traveler is just a little bit of an interesting story, if I can get off on that for just 1 second. So along the edge of our vineyard, the road that runs along the edge of our vineyard inside the fence line was the original train track from the Fredericksburg Northern Railroad that operated from 1913 to 1943. So 30 years worth of railroading from San Antonio to Fredericksburg. So that completely changed travel in the Hill Country when it was implemented in 1913. Prior to that, most people traveled by horse and buggy. There were very few automobiles that were accessible to most people in 1913. So they traveled by horse and buggy, and it was a 2-day trip, and not probably always the most comfortable trip. So when the train began to run in 1913, it changed travel in our Texas Hill Country really forever. We were able to trade goods that we hadn't traded before. People were able to enjoy their transit time on the train from Fredericksburg and back. And so it really heightened the level of travel for people. And that goes straight through our vineyard. On the Time Traveler bottle is a rendition of the passenger car from that train that ran along the edge of our vineyard. So Time Traveler changed travel forever, and that's what we think that Time Traveler wine does. So.
And then from a customer's perspective, what are the ones that you have a hard time keeping in the shelf and people are just scrambling for their favorite?
Well, you mentioned that you really like Merlot, and that really kind of changed your wine world. We have a Merlot right now that I think we're down to like 13 cases. It's been a really, really good seller. Some of our estate wines, we do an estate blend called Old 300, named after the Old 300 settlers that came in with Stephen F. Austin when he came into Texas. So that one is a blend of Alicante, Boucher, and Malbec, and that is a really, really good seller. Another really good seller is our Rosé. It is made from a younger block in our vineyard of Malbec grapes that are hand-harvested and immediately put into the press as soon as we can get them from the field to the press. Our Rosé is named Lizzie Rosé. My great-grandmother's name was Elizabeth Rose, and her nickname was Lizzie. So naturally, that was a great name for our rosé. So it's Lizzie Rosé. And in 2021, that rosé was picked at Houston Livestock Show Wine Competition, which is the largest competition in Texas and the second largest competition in North America. It was picked as the best rosé of the competition. So it was just an extremely good rosé. We're completely sold out of that. We do have the 22 version of that, which we think is just as good. So we love that.
I'm not a big rosé person myself. I like it all right, but when we were at the vineyard, that's the best rosé I think I've ever had.
Oh, thank you.
It was so good.
Thank you. We love it.
Well, let's turn our attention for a moment to the tasting room here. I know that you've got some music setting up, live music, stuff like that. What types of events or attractions or amenities do you provide here in the tasting room?
Well, we do a lot of things, just like most of the wineries along 290. I think our largest claim to fame is that we do have live Texas music 2 days a week, Friday afternoons and Sunday afternoons from 2 to 4. And we like to bring in, we have a lot of personal friends who are musicians, and we like to bring in true Americana, Texas red dirt kind of music. We've had, today we have Walt Wilkins. We'll be packed here in another 30 minutes. He's always he's a great friend and he's a great musician. And we've had Tommy Alverson, we've had Max Stalling, Gary P. Nunn, Larry Joe Taylor, kind of a lot of the Texas names that you've heard of, as well as our local people who we love so much, like Mike Blakely and Woody Eastman and Dan West and Shannon Annie, and just on and on. We have music all the time, and people love to come here. We've been named Best Tasting Room the last 3 years. That is by a customer survey from the Fredericksburg Standard newspaper. And so 2021 and 22, we were awarded that honor. And for the last 2 years, we've also won Best Winery and it's like a cheers bar. Everybody knows everybody, but newcomers are always welcome. So we love having this. We love it to be a place where people can enjoy wine and not feel intimidated at all, to just be able to learn about wine and enjoy their favorite vintage and just hear some great music.
Well, let's talk about what a listener can expect during a tasting. So they're going to come in and visit and do a tasting. So tell me a little bit about what the tasting details are. Fees, do they need reservations? What are they going to taste when they're here?
Okay, great question. So We do have a reservation portal on our website, TexasHeritageVineyard.com. You can make a reservation through that. If your party is going to be larger than 6 people, we recommend that you do make a reservation prior to coming so that we can have a place prepared for you and you don't have to wait. Especially important on the weekends. It gets crowded. Saturdays are crazy out here for every winery, and Texas Heritage is no different. The tasting itself changes about every 2 weeks. We change the wines that are on there, depending on the season, depending on, customer demands, a lot of different reasons. But right now, it's 5 wines, it's 2 white wines, and 3 red wines. Of course, like I said before, we make all our own wine. It's all 100% Texas fruit in the bottle, and it's $25 per person. We are kid-friendly. We don't mind people bringing their children. We would hate to have to restrict our own grandchildren from coming, so you can bring your kids. You can bring your animals. We even have a little dog bar outside where you can get your dog water or a treat or whatever your dog needs. Sometimes we have more dogs than people here. So it's all mostly done on our back deck, weather permitting. And it's a beautiful hill country view. We have a Texas flag waving in the distance right now. And it's a nice sunny day, but we've got a big fan in the ceiling that keeps everybody cool. It's all under shade. So it's a beautiful time to come taste some wine.
Yeah. What are the operating hours for the tasting room?
We are open every single day. Our times, most days, except Saturdays, every day but Saturday, we're open from noon to 5. And Saturdays, we're open from 10 to 6. We do have the 290 wine shuttle that drops people off where their first stop on Saturdays. And so they usually start dropping people off about 10:15. Other days, it's just, walk-in business or reservations that have been made online.
And then what about food options? Do you provide any kind of food options, or can customers bring their own food?
We do not mind people bringing their own food. We have what we laughingly refer to as adult Lunchables. They are meat and cheese trays from Prozac Smokehouse, and it can fill a need, but not a huge need. So you're welcome to bring your own if that's not enough. We have some snack things, but not any real food.
And then do you have any maximum group sizes, like if a tour bus pulled in or anything like that? Or
we would all be shocked if a tour bus pulled in without a reservation, and depending on what day it was and how many chairs we had available, they might not be able to stay. But if you make advance reservations, we have groups as large as 30 or 35. We just have a certain area that we put them in.
And then what are your busy and slow seasons typically? What's the best time to come visit?
Like everyone else that's operating a tasting room in the hill country, April and October tend to be the busiest months, probably because more than anything of the weather. April's wildflowers. May was tremendously busy this year. The summer is a little lighter, but Fredericksburg is becoming such a popular tourist destination, even more so than it's ever been, that I don't know that we really have a slow season. It seems like we're busy all the time, which is a good thing. So I would just come when you have the time to do it.
Do you have a wine club?
We do. We do have a wine club. We still have the traditional wine club pickup parties 4 times a year. You can do 3 bottles, you can do 6 bottles, you can do case. Everybody gets discounts on the wine. They get discounts on any merchandise we have, like T-shirts or caps or whatever other merchandise we have at the time. Our wine club pickup parties are really fun. We have them out at our vineyard and our winery building, which is a much larger facility than our tasting room. Those normally are very well attended. We have live music at those. We have food, and we have wine. So it's really fun. One of our other perks that I don't think a lot of other wineries do, we do some travel events from time to time. In fact, in 8 days, we're leaving on a winemaker cruise. This will be our 4th winemaker cruise that's available to our wine club, and we are going to Alaska. So we are taking 50 or 60 of our closest friends and getting on a ship in Seattle and going up to Alaska. We do some group things on board the boat. We do have a winemaker talk where we sample some wines and just have fun. And kind of every day we have a little impromptu reception in one of the drinking establishments on the ship, and we've had a lot of fun. Another trip we have planned coming up in the fall is a canoe trip through Boquillas Canyon in Big Bend. We do like to focus on areas of Texas that possibly people don't get to see every day. So we will take 22 people on a guided canoe trip through. We'll spend 3 nights in the canyon camping, and it's great fun. We've done this before. My husband and I both went. No one was killed or maimed in the process. We've all made it back. Last fall, we took a trip on a bus to West Texas. We went through Marfa and spent the night. We went to Lajitas and spent the night. And then we went to Terlingua and we went to Marathon to the Gage Hotel. And we just had a great time. We brought our own Texas music with us and they played for us. So it's really, really fun stuff.
Do you do any kind of distribution? So if people, for whatever reason, can't come here to taste your wine, is there a way that they can taste it elsewhere?
We are in about 30 different restaurants, wine bars, facilities, but they're mostly close to Fredericksburg in the Texas Hill Country. We do have, because certain people that work with us have family and let's say close to Huntsville or Houston, and we do have some wine over there in East Texas a little bit. But mostly if you want it and you're in Houston, you're going to have to go to our website and get it from there. We are not distributed by a distributor. We self-distribute.
Do you have plans for future growth?
Well, of course, you always have to be looking toward the future. And our 5-year plan is just to try to expand our tasting room where we have more space for people to be, more air-conditioned and heated space, because right now the majority of our space is on our back decks and it's not air-conditioned or heated, which most days in Texas, that's not a problem, but we do have a few that is a little bit of an issue. So expansion, we realize that to really ensure our future, that we have to make our grapes that we're growing, we have to be able to sustain ourselves. So we plan to enlarge our vineyard, hopefully within the next 3 to 5 years. The high fenced area we have right now is completely full. So we've got to enlarge that high fenced area, run irrigation to a different area. And so we hope to eventually have 30 to 40 acres where we can control our destiny and produce the amount of grapes that we need to survive. So
what, in your opinion, is the number one thing that sets Texas Heritage Vineyard apart from other places that would entice a listener to say, I've got to go check that place out when I'm out there?
Number one thing, I have 2 things.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I can't limit it to one. But the first one is our great wine. We have wonderful, wonderful Texas wines that I would put up against any wines in the universe. We feel like our wines hold their own against French wines, California wines, Italian wines, you name it. We feel like we have wines that can compete in any market, and they have. The second thing is our people. We're friendly. We feel like people should enjoy themselves and should just feel the peace and the love inside the tasting room and not ever be intimidated or put off. We want people to just be happy when they're here and it be a place for people to be able to come and just relax and enjoy themselves.
In this episode, we had the pleasure of getting a unique glimpse into a true Texas wine destination. Susan and Billy have committed to Texas farming and viticulture, and Tyler is making award-winning wines there at Texas Heritage Vineyard. That Lizzie Rosé that Susan mentioned, it won the Best Rosé Award at the Houston Rodeo, and it was truly a delight. I had to take home several bottles of that to my rosé-loving wine friends. Their tasting room is always alive and jumping. They were even setting up for some of that fun live music on the patio while we sat outside to do our interview. Susan will make you feel welcome and a part of their Texas family when you go there to taste your wine. Cheers to Texas Heritage Vineyard and their unwavering commitment to excellence in Texas winemaking. Now, as always, when you decide to make a visit, always check out their website first. It's www.texasheritagevineyard.com. There, you're going to find the info about their wines, their history and their story, and their wine club. But you can also click on that events tab to see a full calendar of all the great live music that Susan mentioned that's coming up. Don't forget, when you go see them, Make sure to tell them you heard about them on this podcast, Texas Under Vine. Now, being a red wine aficionado, I was taken with their 2019 Estate Field Blend on my tasting, so I brought back a bottle of that for my own Texas Under Vine wine library for this episode. But now it's time to move on and check out some other fun wine destinations in Texas. Before I leave, however, I want to extend a special thanks to my newest Patreon subscriber, Vonda H. You truly help make this podcast possible, and I appreciate your commitment to spending your precious dollars to help me spread the word about Texas wine to others. My patrons truly mean the world to me and help me make all of this possible. Thank you so much. If you value the job that I bring to you and you would like to contribute a small amount to helping me cover my costs, just go to my website, texasundervine.com, click on Become a Patron link at the top of the page. And besides helping me with covering my costs, there are great benefits you can receive depending upon your sponsorship level, like behind-the-scenes photos, videos, things like that at the winery, and even updates on places that are coming up on future episodes. You get a little sneak peek. And it all starts at just a few dollars a month. Plus, you'll always have my undying gratitude, and that's worth a lot. Well, my time is up, so don't forget to subscribe to the podcast and follow my socials to be notified whenever the next episode is posted. Until next time, happy trails and bottoms up, y'all. Thanks for listening to Texas Under Vine. We strive to provide you with the best information about wine businesses all over Texas. Be sure to check out our website at texasundervine.com and follow us on our socials at Texas Under Vine to stay up on all the upcoming episodes. Please email us with any suggestions or feedback. Also, contact us if you're interested in donating, sponsoring, or advertising on the podcast, just to help us cover our expenses and bring even more great info to you in future episodes. Above all, travel safely, and most especially, drink responsibly. Don't forget to also check out the Texas Wine Lover website and their phone app. If you want to plan a trip to the wine destination I talked about in this episode, the site for Texas Wine Lover and their phone app that you can download will really help you organize a trip so you can go see them. You can check out all of the goodness that I got to experience while I was there. But as you're planning your trip, while you're on their website or their app, you can also find out things like accommodations, restaurants, and even some fun events and things that are going on at the wineries, and maybe even find one that you want to experience as part of your wine trip that you never even expected. So check them out. Again, it's txwinelover.com.